Cette vidéo vous est proposée par Étape, magazine leader européen consacré au design graphique. Étape existe en version anglaise, espagnole et chinoise. Pour feuilleter un exemplaire ou vous abonner, rendez-vous sur étape.com/preview.
Obviously, typography does play a part. Now, for us, type is very important because we always saw it as image, really. You know, to us, image and type was always something quite similar, and I think that also shows when you look at our works that it's quite visual typography. It's not really like a service area. It's more that the type wants to sort of speak for itself and wants to enjoy itself and have some space. And we always questioned the authority of existing fonts and existing means of approach. And I think inspired also by what's being painted on the streets. We always saw typography is something that you have a letter S, but you can also pull on the end and then it becomes a new S, or maybe flip a 2 upside down, you also have an S, or maybe a Z. Or if you mirror a small a, it could be an E, So we always like to fuck around with it, and have it melt, have it degenerate into something ugly which could become something perfect. And
then try to convey the whole story of the thing you want to communicate through the design in the typography itself. You see very often that is done in photography because that is image for people, and then they put the type on it. At the last moment, very boring. And then we have often the discussions with our clients, like, no, but it's unreadable, and but that's also a challenge. Like, okay, when does it become unreadable? But maybe it's unreadable typographically, but conveys the whole feeling in one spot, or it catches your attention and you want to just see it and come close. And all these aspects we also like about type, but it is an abstract way of saying it without having a picture right away, but more something that's there in a second layer. On the one hand, we like a very rough approach in style, and also that it has balls and energy, but on the other hand it is executed in extreme perfection, that sometimes he draws a week on a logo and detail, a bit more like this, and then it might be absurd to other people who just work with image or photography more, and typography for them is something else. For us it's like, most of the time it's the main thing, or where we start off, or where we get our ideas from.
We also like about it, if you draw your own stuff, nobody can copy it,
Yeah, that's not a good thing.
That's a good reason, because at a certain point, not only us, but a lot of people who were doing work back in the 90s were...
And also because of the app, just because of the computer, everybody has these phones, and
it led to the same solutions, some people were literally copying it, and other people were just being led to the same fountain, so to speak, that Illustrator provided. And they were like, fuck, we can't handle this, let's just draw ugly stuff. At least it'll be ours.
Just have your own really personal handwriting.
And then we spent hours on the computer trying to hide the computer. That's what happened. And I had this discussion with this friend of ours, Niels Schuh-Mulman, who's like the best typographer at the moment in Holland, we think, and or at least one of them, And he told me that, because he's older than us, back in the day, they would spend hours trying to make it as perfect as possible by hand, and now we spend hours trying to make it scruffy by computer. So nothing changed really, except it's the other way around.
What's your experience between the screen, the work with the screen, with the movie? We were speaking just a few minutes before. You said, "Oh, we lack moving graphics," and what does it represent for you? A new field of creativity, or does it influence the rest of the thing you do? Or what's what the difference between the 2D graphics and the time motion graphics, the full 4-dimensional graphics? What it brings you? How you feel it?
I think it is more about a different way of telling a story, because you have the element of time, and then you can build up a suspense throughout the time of the movie. Then it is that we are motion animators. We are not so good in animating two-dimensional graphics in a three-dimensional world.
But it is, like we said earlier, the approach can be the same, you know. It's again, if the assignment is make a short bumper, yeah, then you think, okay, how can I approach this? Similar as make a flyer. The only difference is, yeah, you have to animate it, and then there's new problems, you know. A flyer you see in one go, and maybe you read in the dark, so you can't go too detailed. I don't know. And yeah, in the other thing, there's a time lapse, so you have to sort of take that into account. But motion graphics, yeah, it's like anything. We're absolutely not experts on it, but we just do it the way we see fit. And the only thing we really learn throughout the years is that you can't do it all. It would be impossible to also learn how to animate yourself. I mean, we know a little bit, but now we'd rather let guys who really know that do that, because they're way better at it than we will ever be.
But currently we're working on a series of small short films in combination with a musician who creates the music, and those are more moving photographs with
sort of art films.
A political or an ideological idea behind it that we want to portray. And it is very much about suspense, and it is a totally different thing than a flyer, because yeah, it is more, to say, a free art, which is very open to information. You can get out of it what you want, but it's a total different thing than we did before. And now we also learned that we need extra cameramen or technical guys to support us in that, because we can't obviously do it all. But it is nice to have that in combination with your other work, and to be involved in different media as a designer.
I think that's also the strength of the graphic designer in an art school. That's why I tell students you have an advantage being a designer, because you're open to different, you know, means of approaching stuff. You know, you know how to treat certain element, the value of an element, and then putting it all together can be very good when applied to making an art piece, you know.
Do you think you have a political role in this society? What is the role of a designer in
No,
society?
I think the role of the designer.
Because you were speaking of that.
Yeah, I mean, back when it happened in '68, the role of the designer became quite apparent, because the design department in all the art schools, that was the place where, you know, the posters were being designed and silk screened for, you know, the demonstration on the street. I think the role of a graphic designer is not different than the role of any human being that feels involved. Is you can do something with whatever you can. A baker might bake the bread, and, you know, we could design a poster. In other words, I think your job is to give information. And if you feel strongly about something, in our case that is sometimes politics, sometimes something else, but then you can speak about that, you know, if you're informed enough. I mean, but it can also be an emotional approach, yeah? Like, shit, I know it's unrealistic, but this is what I would like. I know world peace can't happen, but I still want it. And maybe I can make a good cartoon or a good poster about it, make people think, make people laugh. Say something. We never understood visuals in clubs, for example. We did that a lot, videos in clubs, mixing it live together. And then it was tunnels, or, you know,
spaced out,
druggy shit.
Just wallpaper.
And MTV-like animations. And we felt like, wow, you know, you have a super direct communication method to the audience. Let's speak about what state, you know, the world is in. And some people, you know, became depressed, and other people loved it. And I think that's what you can do. You can speak up. You can give information.
You can also use the public service it has. You know, if a flyer or a poster is spread out or copied 10,000 times throughout the city, you can use that information that the client wants to put on there. He wants to sell something, and he's using your talent to sell something. But we like to give our own opinion on top of that, or our own. And that can be sometimes political, but I also believe that sometimes it can be about very small personal things. But it is an opportunity to do something. And that's what we always feel with every tiny or big assignment.